Hello everyone, I am Advait Kauta and welcome back to my channel Subodha. Today we will be starting the third chapter in class 8 geography, that is minerals and power resources. Now let's just first quickly take a look at the contents of this chapter. So these are the contents of this chapter. First we'll start off with a few basics, defining what minerals are and what they're used for. Next we'll be talking about the types of minerals and the extraction of minerals. Then we'll be talking about the distribution of these minerals and where they're found in different places on Earth. And finally, we'll be talking about the types of resources, that is renewable and non-renewable. So without further ado, let's begin. So now first, what is a mineral? So a mineral is anything in nature which has a definite chemical composition. Now that's a textbook definition. I'm sure that doesn't explain too much as to what a mineral is. So, to put it simply without going too much into chemistry, it has a perfect and a common chemical composition everywhere. So, let me give you an example. Let's say I bring gold from somewhere in Africa, and let's say I bring gold from somewhere in Europe. Will the chemical composition of both of them be different? Absolutely not. They will still be made up of the same element, that is gold. So, the composition is basically what elements a substance is made up of. Another example can be water from a lake versus water from, let's say, an ocean or a sea. Will the chemical composition of the two waters be the same? It will. It will still be made up of H2O molecules. And so that is basically what a mineral is. Regardless of where you bring it from, the chemical composition will be the same. So that is basically a mineral. Now, we use minerals every day in our lives, be it from automobiles to cooking, we use it everywhere. And that is what we're going to study in this chapter. Where do we use minerals and how do we save them? So now let's move on to the second part of this chapter, that is the extraction and the types of minerals. Now in nature, there are two broad categories for minerals: metallic minerals and non-metallic minerals. Metallic minerals, as the name suggests, are those which are basically metals. Now, how do we identify a metal? Well, they must be ductile, that is, they must have the property to be made into wires. They must be malleable, that is, they can be turned into sheets, and they must have a high boiling and melting point, that is, they can resist high amount of temperatures. And so, all of that basically makes up a metallic mineral. Whereas non-metallic minerals are those minerals which do not share any of these properties. So they are brittle in nature, that is, they can break easily. They have very low melting and boiling points, etc. So those are metallic and non-metallic minerals. Now, these metallic minerals are also divided into two categories: ferrous and non-ferrous. Now, remember, whenever you hear the word ferrum, ferrous, or ferric, it means that it is related to iron. Ferrum is the Latin word for iron. So, with that knowledge, we understand that ferrule or ferrous metallic minerals are those which have iron present in them, whereas obviously non-ferrous are those which do not have any content of iron present in them. So these are the different types of minerals. Now let's understand how minerals are extracted. Now, to put it simply, extraction is the process of taking out minerals from the surface of the earth, locating them, removing them, and using them for our daily needs. So, the extraction of minerals is of three types. All of these three are done for different types of minerals. First, we have drilling. Drilling, as simple as it sounds, is basically drilling holes or wells into the ground for the extraction of oil and petroleum. Next is quarrying. Quarrying is basically the blasting or the breaking of large pieces of land from which stone is usually extracted. This stone is then churned and is then made into concrete, which is used for our buildings. So basically, the explosion or the mining of a large piece of area on the surface of the earth without going too deep is quarrying. So it is usually used to mine stone. And finally, the most important extraction of all, through which we receive are solid minerals, are mining. Now, mining can again be classified into two types. One is open cast and one is shaft mining. Open cast, as the name sounds, is done close to the surface of the earth. Whereas in shaft mining, shafts or deep underground tunnels are dug in order to remove minerals. So those minerals which are found close to the surface of the earth are mined through open cast mining, whereas those which are found deep inside the earth, like gold and silver, are mined using shaft mining. So that is the extraction of minerals. Now, let's move on to the third and probably the most important part of this chapter, distribution of minerals. Now, I wanted to take a bit of a different approach for this one. So, here you have a map of the world showcasing the different types of minerals found on Earth. Now, let's zoom in and zoom out of specific continents to understand what sort of minerals are present there. Let's begin with Asia. Now, if you notice here in Asia, in the southeast parts, there is high concentration of tin. So, in countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, parts of China, Burma, etc., there is a high concentration of tin. And these few regions in Asia produce the largest amount of tin in the world, more than 50% of the world's tin. Now, let's zoom out and let's take a look at a different part of Asia. Let's take a look at India and China. Over here, you'll find high concentration of iron ore deposits. There are large concentrations of iron ore deposits which make these countries very, very prosperous. So that is for Asia. Apart from this, if you look at the rest of Asia, you can find minerals such as bauxite, zinc, etc. So now, let's zoom away from Asia and let's take a look at a different part of the world, that is Europe. In Europe, if you notice towards the more northern sides, such as countries like Sweden, Ukraine, Russia, etc., you'll find high concentration of iron ore deposits. These regions are responsible for a majority of the world's production of iron ore. So Europe is the largest producer of iron ore in the entire world. Now, in places like Russia and some parts of Ukraine and Belarus, there is also concentration of oil or petroleum, as you'll notice here. So that is for Europe. It's pretty simple. It is the largest producer of iron ore in the world. Now, let's take a look at North America. In North America, I've divided the map into three different parts for you. So the part which is at the north is called the Canadian Shield region. Now remember, it is present above the Great Lakes, which are also marked on this map. The Great Lakes are basically a network of lakes and rivers which are extremely important for trade in North America. You'll study about that in later chapters as well. So, the part which is to the north of these Great Lakes is called the Canadian Shield region. To the south of that, in most parts of the United States, you'll find a region called the Appalachian region. And finally, towards the west, you'll find the Western Cordilleras, which are basically mountain regions. So let's start from the top. Let's look at the Canadian Shield region. The Canadian Shield region consists of most of the generic sort of minerals that you'll find around the world. Things like bauxite, zinc, tin, copper, etc. are all found here. When you move towards the south, towards the Appalachian region, you'll find large deposits of coal, as you can notice in this map. The Appalachian region forms the largest part of coal deposits in the entire world. And now let's shift our focus more westward. Here in the Western Cordilleras, which are basically mountains, you'll find most of the important minerals such as gold, silver, sometimes even diamonds, and a few stones. So that is North America. North America is divided into three regions based on the minerals it has, and all of these three have different mineral compositions. Now let's shift our focus down south. Here we have the continent of South America. Let's start with the top. Here, if you notice, in Brazil, there is a high concentration of iron ore. Brazil is the single largest producer of high quality, high grade iron ore in the entire world. Next, if you notice, countries like Chile and Peru have large deposits of copper with them. Brazil is also one of the largest producers of tin in the entire world, along with the country of Bolivia. In countries like Venezuela, you'll also find a lot of oil. So that is a composition of different minerals and deposits in South America. The next continent is the continent of Africa. It has the most amount of rich minerals in the entire world. If you notice towards the north, there is a high concentration of oil and petroleum deposits. Countries such as Libya, which are closer to the Mediterranean Sea, receive large deposits of oil every single year. Next, when we look towards the south, in countries like Zimbabwe and in locations such as there, you'll find a high concentration of diamond, silver, gold, and platinum. This continent is the largest producer of all of those four minerals, that is, diamonds, gold, silver, and platinum. So, in terms of natural resources, it is the richest in the entire world. Now, let's look at the continent of Australia. Australia is the largest producer of bauxite in the entire world. Bauxite is sort of this complete mineral deposit from which you extract things like your iron, aluminium, etc. So, it is the largest producer of bauxite in the entire world. Along with it, it also has deposits of things such as zinc, tin, etc. The final continent that we'll be looking at is the continent of Antarctica. Now, Antarctica does not have a large amount of known mineral deposits because most of it is still undiscovered, but it is forecasted that it has large deposits of things like gold, silver, oil, etc. It also has a large amount of discovered coal deposits. So, with that, we have finished the entire first half of this chapter, where we've looked at the basics of minerals, the extraction and the types of minerals, and finally looked at the distribution of these minerals all around the world. So, that's it for today, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll be continuing the same chapter, that is the third chapter in geography. Till then, thank you.